to leave and maybe others. So let's call the meeting to order.
I'll take a roll call.
Let's do a roll. Please, thank you.
Very good. Cindy Butts.
Here.
Wendy Clark emailed a little while ago and said she wouldn't be able to join us. Heidi Weingart.
Okay, I'm here.
Claudio Gualtieri. We just heard Commissioner Mascara Bruno is not able to join us. Lisa Tepper Bates. And Greg Ugalde.
Present.
Good, thanks,
We
Greg.
do have a
Is
quorum.
Lisa here or not? I
did
didn't hear
not hear
Lisa.
her.
Is she here? Okay, okay. All right, well, let's stay. Hopefully she'll log in soon. So the first item on our agenda is the resolution regarding the financing of Eagleville Green, which is in Mansfield, and to be presented by Liz Valgorski. Hi, Liz.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Eagleville Green is a 4% LIHTC project with tax exempt bond financing. The developer is an entity of the Housing Authority of Mansfield, and the request is for a construction loan up to 6.6 million, a permanent mortgage up to 4.150, and we're going to give subordinate mortgage financing up to $1 million, which will be funded from opportunity funds or a combination of opportunity funds and or other funds. Eagleville Green is a new construction project. It will include 7 new buildings with 1 gut renovated house around the central green, with 42 mixed income units and 87 surface parking spaces. 80% of the units will be affordable, 22 units to households under 50% AMI, 12 units to households under 60%, and 8 units will be market rate. The development will include a mixture of flats and townhouse styles with quality finishings, which include hardy plank siding, individual roofed patios, plank wood floors, granite countertops, washer dryers, and solar and passive solar features. So all of these appear to be luxury amenities. However, except for the washer dryer, these are more durable materials and will support the product and last longer than alternative materials. They have a 12-month construction period planned with a 4-month lease up, and the lease up period is supported by the appraisal and market study. This seems to be a great location. It's right on a main road. It's half a mile to the main commercial area and the UConn campus. There is considerable demand, which is supported by the appraisal and market study as well. Debt service coverage will be 1.15 in year 1. The loan to value is low at 46%. And to your point earlier, Heidi, this has many interested parties and many funding sources. And we'll end up with 34 new affordable housing units, 42 total in a rural area in need of housing. So that's the quick summary. Any questions?
Anybody, any questions? I did feel like, Liz, that when I was reading the amenities, that it seemed like it was luxurious, but to your point, you know, durable is important as well. So I don't, I forget what the per unit cost was, but again,
It's 485, Heidi. You know, that's the thing, you know, I mean, and we all know why. We all see the moving parts, but you know, when we start talking affordable housing at almost $500,000, you know, we've got an uphill climb.
But this one's less than one of the other ones was 5 something.
That's right.
One of the other projects we're looking at. So
we are seeing that. We are seeing that pretty consistently now. We've been working with architects and GCs to try to understand how we might impact that. Unfortunately, right now with labor costs and material costs, this is something we're facing. We do have in this, we have $2.1 million coming from the town of Mansfield. We have energy rebates. There's some offsets here that will work to bring those costs per units down. But it's something, these high costs are something we're facing on almost every project right now.
Yeah. But, in comparison to, a not, affordable housing project, are those projects also 400, 500 a unit? I mean, is it just the union and the special,
I've
situation.
understood that anytime you add deed restricted units, you can close to double the amount. That may be incorrect, but private that does not have these restrictions makes
Right.
it, you can do twice as many.
So
Yeah.
private, I've had some conversation with private developers over the past couple of weeks, and
Sure.
where they used to see around $250,000 per unit, they're now seeing around
Yeah.
325,000 a unit. So they've actually seen a very precipitous increase in their cost to construct as well.
Mhm.
However, we do have, and we've discussed this, and we're going to continue to try to break this down, the different layers that are created by the restrictions that we
Yeah.
require. And some of it is prevailing wages, Davis-Bacon. We have
Mhm.
very specific requirements for passive house for energy conservation and delivery. So we've always known that affordable housing is more expensive to put out than market rate, and we've got our eye on it. We're trying to find ways to mitigate that.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fairness too, when you look at the deep cuts that are allowed and what we're shooting for here, there's reasons, we everybody, for profit, not for profit, everybody's fighting these same battles. So there's an overall increase. And it just seems that, when you look at, for example, the complexity that we were just talking about in Heidi, you guys were talking at the beginning of the meeting, just all the moving parts, all that adds to the complication and the
know.
cost. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that it's something we've identified and we have to look at, but boy, it's scary when
Yes,
you look
is.
at that cost. And we're talking stores here, we're not talking
Right.
West Hartford
right.
or one of the higher
Right,
priced
right.
towns.
Right. We're
Yeah, there's available land there.
the land costs aren't
The
are
acquisition
not high.
cost on this is very low, $270,000.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a way to reduce this. I mean, except for the fact it has luxury features, but
Yeah. I mean,
maybe
balconies.
that's the
and-
only thing that's going to draw people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that could be one of the only things that draw people into these outside areas.
Yeah.
Someone who may otherwise be looking for a housing unit in West Hartford might consider stores because they like the amenities that are provided there they couldn't get otherwise. It could be a draw that's not available otherwise.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and Heidi, we have discussed this with architects about, I
Mhm.
heard you mention the word balcony, about design, if there are more economic designs that they can come up with, which in their
Right.
minds translates to very, very sort of plain delivery. And I know a lot of municipalities don't want that sort of big rectangular box with no character to it. So we're trying to figure that out as well. So and I know that staff has even gone as far, and I think Commissioner Mascara-Bruno has gone to Westchester Modular to take a look at what they're providing now in terms. So we're trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
But it's not just our state; it's across.
It's
pretty much
right.
all states right now.
Yeah, and I even wondered if this would be a draw for people who may be considering like teaching positions at UConn. That this would be, an option as they're looking at our school versus other schools. Give them a balcony.
Yeah.
whatever.
And the thing is, we're trying to steer away from the affordable housing look as well.
That's
So,
true.
Right.
that's
Yeah.
one of the things. And, it's interesting to me because whenever we are in a situation like this, we find ourselves calling attention to it because there's not much we can do, but yet we can't act like it's not there either. So we identify it. We look at the items that we have to tackle with the interest rate environment, the inflationary pressures, not only on labor, but materials. And this is where we are. This is we have to provide more housing, and there's only so many ways and so many tools we have to do it. And I think we're doing a good job. It's just that it's hard not to at least identify that as an issue when we're talking about it.
Right.
Agreed.
It's,
Liz, the only other question, I'm sorry, that I have is, the developer in this case, which I guess is the town, right? Is Mansfield. We have some concerns about their experience. It's a big project. It's, and you've laid it out. How do we get comfortable? Is it our oversight that will help them?
So
What do we do?
NDC is a big national investor in LIHTC, and they are pretty hands-on. We're very comfortable with Enterprise Builders as the GC. They've done a number of CHFA properties.
Right.
In addition, they have agreed to get a LIHTC experience consultant on board for 18 months to help oversee the project. So that gives us a lot of comfort. They've got a lot of support. So yes, they're new to it. It's a big project for them, but they put together a good team.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was at a meeting recently where the comment was made, there's municipalities that want affordable housing, but there's not developers who are proactively trying to build there. And for better or worse, I think this is an example of where a municipality is taking the lead and figuring out how a municipality can provide it if the private market won't do it or can't do it or doesn't see a financial benefit to delivering it. So this could be a really good example to other municipalities about how it could work, even if they, if they want to step up and be the leader in this coming forward the way Mansfield is.
Cindy, it's a great point, because what's our alternative? Not to have these 42 units perhaps, right? Because you're not flying off the shelves here. So we have to be creative in our own right as well.
Yeah, someone else isn't building them if Mansfield doesn't. It's,
Right.
There's towns across Connecticut. If the municipality doesn't do something like this, I don't know if we're going to see housing units built.
Right.
Heidi, do you want a motion to approve?
Sure. Just, is there any other questions or comments? Pat, you were going to say something. I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say that staff will stay on top of this. We always do. We'll most likely have weekly meetings until we don't think that they're necessary anymore, just to keep everybody on track and in compliance with all of our requirements.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Greg, I guess we're ready.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve this application as submitted.
And I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. All right, Dawn,
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
aye.
Claudio Gualtieri, Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes
Okay.
unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda is the resolution regarding financing of Ellis Street Commons, which is in New Britain, to be presented by Sarah Simonelli. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, everyone. So Ellis Street Commons, this project involves the adaptive reuse of a historic mill complex in New Britain. Their property, which is currently vacant, will be redeveloped into 154 new mixed income and workforce housing apartments with a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. All units will be affordable to individuals and families below 80% AMI, including 32 units deep income targeted for families earning below 30% AMI, and 21 units which will be for supportive housing. And they'll be assisted by project-based vouchers provided by Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, as well as DOH through their Section 811 program. The remaining units will be split between 50, 60, and 80% AMI. This is the project, I know it came up with the high cost. However, a lot of this expense will be offset as the project will benefit from both state and federal historic tax credits in excess of $27 million. 4% LIHTC proceeds of approximately $30 million, $7.8 million in DOH funding, which is a mix of bond funding and DOH federal National Housing Trust funds, as well as local home funds from the city of New Britain. And this project also includes substantial environmental remediation, which will be largely offset by a contribution of almost $1 million through the DECD Brownfields Remediation Program. The development team on this project is well seasoned, with Wind Development Company as the developer and the property manager, and BOA as the construction lender and the syndicator, both of whom have extensive experience working with CHFA, working on other LIHTC deals, and even working on other historic mill reuse projects together. The CHFA involvement in this deal, as proposed, represents a structure that is new to the authority and allows for maximum leveraging of private equity. CHFA will provide tax-exempt bond proceeds of up to $40.5 million to fund a construction to permanent loan. Unlike typical construction financing, these funds would not be advanced to the developer until construction is complete during the lease up and stabilization period, at which point they will be used along with tax credit equity to pay down a BOA construction loan. The CHFA loan will be interest only at a rate of 6.5% for up to 10 months through that lease up and stabilization period, at which point there will be a partial payoff of $27.4 million and a conversion of the remaining $13.1 million to a permanent mortgage. The permanent mortgage would bear the same 6.5% rate and have a 40-year term and amortization schedule. All advanced loan proceeds, both construction and perm, will be secured by a first priority mortgage lien on the development. CHFA will also provide a subordinate loan of up to $1 million, which will be funded concurrently with the construction to perm loan and bear a rate of 2.5%. That loan is to be funded through opportunity funds or other available authority resources. I think the challenges, and that was mostly in the memo, but one thing to mention is the $4 million from DOH is in bond funding, and that bond funding has yet to be approved by the State Bond Commission, but it is expected to be presented at the next meeting, which is currently scheduled for April 6th. So with that, I guess, any questions?
So even though we call this a construction to perm loan, we're not really involved in the construction, just the lease up period, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, while this is a unique set of circumstances for us, a unique structure for us, it's not unique to the industry. Wynn has done this before in several other states, including Massachusetts. There are some nuances. Hazim has been instrumental in putting this all together for us. But we think we have a structure that works for everybody involved. So we come in and—
Why does it make sense? I mean, why convert then? That takes the lease up risk out of Bank of America's court? I mean, why does this?
It's a little different than that, Heidi. So this isn't about risk. So Bank of America wants to have the construction debt on this. They are the investor. They're at, correct me if I'm wrong, so I think they're at 96 cents on their raise. So but their debt is taxable, and so this needs tax exempt bonds in there for bond cap, right? So we need to bring that tax exempt bond funding into the deal in order for them to meet their 50% test, and it has to be in the deal for a certain amount of time. So that's why we're coming in at that stage in roughly month 20, and then those tax exempt bonds have to be during the construction period for a minimum amount of time, and in this case, we're doing it for 10 months.
Okay, so it's timing more.
Yes. Well, and it's the tax exempt financing that needs to be in the deal to meet its 50% test for the bond cap.
Okay.
I think just to, oh, sorry.
Say also, because BOA is packaging the debt and the equity, their net cent raise on the credits is significantly higher if they're both equity provider and construction lender, which was really the key to why this is the way it is.
Okay.
Explain the significance too of that bond meeting, the timing of that. We don't, do we have any concern there? Could that go bad or?
No, Greg, that's the State Bond Commission, and they usually meet quarterly, and that's where there's a $4 million, you'll see in the sources and uses, there's a $4 million DOH contribution to this deal, and that comes from the allocation of those bonds. We do this very, very regularly when the Bond Commission meets. We have numerous items that we get bonds committed to. We've never had an issue with it. We don't expect there to be an issue. The only issue that could come up is sometimes the Bond Commission meetings get postponed and rescheduled. And so we may end up losing time, and it could interfere with how all the pieces come together, but we don't anticipate any problems with this.
So it's really a timing, not a risk thing at all. It's timing and then just timing after the approvals. Got it. Okay.
What about the DEP remediation plan hasn't been finalized? That sounds like a big question mark.
Yeah, so that's just generally how that program works. DEEP won't finalize their approval until property ownership is transferred. So essentially at initial closing. But they have done initial reviews, and we've had the developer do sort of price out a worst case scenario option, which has been reviewed by CHFA's third-party LEP as well as their own.
So we're pretty comfortable. What's the cleanup? What are we cleaning up?
This is a lot. What are we not cleaning up?
The soil stuff, right? Mostly.
It's soil. It's yeah. There's it's an old mill building, so there's also a lot in there's asbestos there. Yeah.
Right.
It gets yeah.
And then I thought there in here it said that the rate is not to exceed X, and I don't remember what it is, but then it says potential for additional interest rate increases. So don't we have a cap on the rate?
Yeah, that's more in reference to their BOA loan. So the longer we take to close, that loan interest rate could continue to increase, which would increase costs. But we did build in a much higher cushion than we even normally do, just to account for that.
Okay, but is the B of A, is that a floating rate construction?
It is.
It is, so that could, based on what's going on. Okay, anybody else, any questions? I mean, this is a big project, obviously takes an old unoccupied property and puts it in the market for very nice affordable housing. Sounds like it makes sense that just the, renovations are always complicated, so.
Yeah. And we did some builder blitz houses, 6 of them, and 6 different builders, and we put them in a neighborhood. And in New Britain is very, they have a lot of incentives to get this type of thing done. I mean, it's an expensive proposition, but I mean, look at how beautiful it looks in the end.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's a good use of the property. That's what we're really charged to do. And you like to see numbers like, the number of new units, right? 154, that's significant.
Yes, agree. Okay.
We'd love to see more big units, like big projects.
Big projects, yeah.
Right, all the work that goes into it, this one has a
right?
lot of sliding parts too, but it's, when they start moving in, it's all good.
And Greg, this checks a lot of boxes for us, right? I mean, adaptive reuse, environmental cleanup. We get a
Right.
lot of affordable units. They're all affordable. So
Yeah.
this checks a lot of boxes. It's expensive, but there's a lot of offsetting sources. There's approximately $185,000 per unit in other sources coming in to reduce the cost per unit. So it's actually quite economic. It's quite economic.
It's a long time coming in. I was looking, does this count as downtown and by transportation and check some of those boxes too? I mean, I'm trying to figure out this location, but it's super, all the boxes that can be checked.
Yeah, I don't think it qualifies for TOD. Sarah, do you know if it qualifies as TOD? I don't think.
I don't think so, but it is really close to public transportation, and yeah, it's a pretty great location as far as like other development happening right now in New Britain.
Yeah, right.
You should check though, because the radius to be called TOD is pretty wide. It's like 3 miles, I think. so it may
Oh.
actually be, I think, I mean, or if there's
For at
different
least-
definitions, you may want to check.
Right. Even if you get it in gray, rather than black and white, I don't know. It just looks to me when you look at the map that it's reasonable.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments? Questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve as submitted.
And I'll second it.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay, Dawn?
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWenger,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri, Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, next up is the resolution regarding the financing of MLK Tyler Street Family Housing. This project's in New Haven and is going to be presented by Carol Gooden.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Carol.
Carol?
Hi. So MLK Tyler Street, for this proposal, staff is seeking authorization to approve tax exempt bond, taxable bond proceeds in an amount up to $6.2 million. In addition to opportunity funds in an amount up to $655,000 and CMF proceeds in an amount of $1.5 million. The financing proceeds would be used to develop 56 mixed income units in New Haven. The proposed mortgagor is West River Housing. They are an affiliate of NHP, a New York-based nonprofit developer. MLK will include 44 affordable apartments, 12 apartments targeted for families at or below 100% AMI. Of these units, 14 are targeted for families at or below 30% AMI. 23 are targeted for families at or below 50% AMI, and 7 are targeted for families at or below 60% AMI. 12 of the apartments are supportive housing. The development team, including the architect, property manager, and contractor, all have substantial experience with CHFA finance development. The developer NHP, circa 2010, they did develop a 4% deal in Stamford. The CHFA permanent loan will be funded after the project achieves lease up and stabilization, which will minimize CHFA's risk. There are no proceeds of the permanent loan will be dispersed during construction. The proceeds of the CMF loan and the opportunity loan will be funded during construction. Additional financing includes low-income housing tax credits. DOH is providing flex assistance in the amount of $320,000. Also trust funds in the amount of $1,980,000. The city of New Haven is providing a $1 million fully deferred loan. The sponsor is providing 3 loans. The first is funded with AHP, an AHP award in the amount of $650,000. They're also providing a sponsor loan in the amount of $617,475,000, and a third sponsor loan in the amount of $1,495,000, which will be funded with CMF proceeds. NHP does have a CMF award as well. So they have applied for UDAG funding in the amount of $995,000. And if the funding awards won't be made until sometime after the construction loan closing, if those funds are awarded, they would then utilize those funds to replace portion of the CMF loan. They're also planning to apply for HDCCs in the amount of $500,000. This project had a $3.2 million gap, and these sources formed from the developer is a means of closing that gap. As you can see, the TDC is $30,207, which translate to approximately $539,000 per apartment. The hard cost for this project is being driven by two factors, including the passive housing design standards and the site utility costs for 11 separate buildings. It's also located in New Haven, and we looked at some of the data from past deals, and we're seeing that the location of the development does impact the cost, where developments that are located in the more southern regions tend to have a higher cost per unit. The other issue that's impacting the cost per unit, again, as I mentioned, is the passive housing, and the cost for the passive housing is outlined in the memo. So the strengths of this deal is that it's going to be adding 44 affordable apartments and 12 workforce housing apartments to CHFA's portfolio. Challenges include the interest rate fluctuations, which may impact the amount of the carry costs for the construction loan. We do have some cushion built into the budget to accommodate that. Also, the developer fee in this instance could be a source for funding cost overruns. There is some soft cost contingency built into the budget, and the actual construction loan is for $17,500,000, which also will be available to fund cost overruns. Again, for this transaction, there will be no disbursement of the permanent loan during construction, and at construction conversion, CHFA will re-underwrite the transaction to ensure that it can support our permanent loan. Any questions?
Well, that raises a question, what happens if it doesn't? I suppose
We don't come in.
we could reduce our loan, but that wouldn't solve the problem.
Right. But we're not obligated to come in unless it underwrites.
Oh, okay.
So, and I
So at
think
that point, you would-
Heidi, the difference too
Yep.
here that I'm seeing, maybe we could talk about as part of this, when you have sponsor financing throughout, right? It doesn't it make our role a little bit different, and we can make it more contingent that way, because it's really the sponsors that are controlling the entire board.
Yeah. They don't make it. We don't step in. I mean, our risk is limited or lessened.
Right.
How often?
But
This
you
is
don't want to do
another-
all this
something
work
like
and
this.
not step in, right?
Right.
What?
And I mean, it shows you how strong the sponsors are too, with the, what did you say? 3 different facilities.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's an interesting reason why they would do it this way, but maybe it's easier for them to have sponsor financing. I don't know. From a
No,
construction,
again,
it
we get,
seems
this is
11 buildings and 44 units, that adds to the cost, as you pointed out,
Yes.
Carol, the utility cost, because they have 11 buildings. If they had, half of that, if they had 6 buildings, that would be maybe a more efficient way to do it. But I mean, I'm not second guessing the structure. It just seems like it's adding.
It's
to the cost.
beautiful. Yeah, it's a different look. But you're right. I mean, picture it this way. Think of all those outside walls and added expense when
Right.
you're bringing your roofs
Of course.
down, everything else, right? Rather than connecting it. So you're
Right.
absolutely right. 11 buildings, but I mean, you look at it, it's definitely has character, and it's accurate thinking too. By sponsors being so involved in the financing, they've cut out a lot of those steps. Like if Bank of America was involved or other people, you're
Right.
constantly providing paperwork and everything else. Not that they're not doing it with their own entities, but it's just a different
Right.
level of scrutiny.
Right.
So
And is this the best possible scenario for our risk? I mean, do we have less risk because it was done this way as far as needing to
We do
contribute?
have- Yes, we do have less risk because we don't bear the two biggest risks in any development, right? Are your construction risk, which we won't be involved in the construction risk. And then your lease up risk is the next big risk that you face. And this will be fully leased up, fully constructed by the time we step in with COs and fully occupied. So we avoid that portion of the risk. So most of these structures that you see where you have a sponsor and
Right.
the same lender, it's simply because it's to keep the raise on their equity high. So in some of these instances, we've tried to step into the construction piece, but then we find that we end up creating a gap because the raise comes down and we can't put the deal together. So we're finding more and more that the structure works, and then we come in and provide the permanent financing so that we can participate and oversee the project moving forward.
Can I
So
also
this is,
add-
I don't know.
Plus we got a longer term asset on the books, right? Not just a construction, and paid off. So it helps
Right.
us too.
I would
And
like,
this is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the area, but this is right where El Grasso Boulevard and frontage come
Yeah.
together in New Haven. This is a great location. They've been working on this for years with the city to put together. We had some serious gap issues. Carol's done a fantastic job of keeping everybody sort of together on this and working that gap down, and Leslie from our tech services as well. But this is in a great location, and yes, they're adding cost by doing 11 separate buildings, but that's a construct they came up with along with the city that the city felt was right for the neighborhood. So we're very pleased that this is here today.
and can we also note that the city is providing $1 million of fully deferred financing, and they're also handing over a clean site to the developer. They received a grant from DECD that they're using to clean up the site. So the developer will have a clean site in addition at a below appraised cost for the property, as well as $1 million from the city.
I just think all of these together are such good examples to give to other municipalities. Like here's a way to help a developer clean it up and hand it over or something,
Mhm.
Agreed. And the city
Yeah.
is also providing a tax abatement on the affordable units on this.
Yes.
So the municipality is very participative in this, and very much that's the success as a result of their participation.
And then they get their 11 beautiful buildings rather than
Right.
one, right?
Also,
This will be transformational for that neighborhood.
this is similar to the Lascana deal where we solve for a workforce housing component in connection with our providing additional soft funds. So this is.
Yes, very good point. That's kind of gotten lost. So part of the way that we were able to fill the gap on this is we were able to first offer them permanent financing that matched what they were getting from a third party. And in doing so, we were able to provide opportunity funds in exchange for their commitment on 10 of their 12 of their units as workforce housing. So similar to the Lascana structure, we have 12 units here that were formerly market rate that are now restricted at 100% AMI. And Carol included a little chart in there that shows the differential in rents, which is significant. So we were able to actually layer that on with just the $1 million contribution of opportunity funds. So again, this is just a great story.
Right, I had minimized
I
that
like that.
maybe a little too much. That's a great point, though. You know, when you start talking about 100% right there, that does significantly change the rents.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah,
table.
it's a conversation we've had, but I think it
very
gets
helpful.
Yeah.
It's previous page, maybe. There it is.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Anybody else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? And I like the renderings a lot.
Yeah.
And the chart on the housing differential, the rent differential is very helpful.
If you're ready, I'll
Okay.
make a motion to approve.
Yeah, please do.
And I'll second
Okay,
that.
we got a second. Thanks, Cindy. All right, Dawn,
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
yes.
Claudio Gualtieri, Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Yes.
The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Next up is the approval of the mortgage minutes from February 21st. Anybody have any comments or questions or changes?
So moved. Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Dawn,
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart.
I think I have to abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Claudio Gualtieri, Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Yes.
The vote passes with one
Okay.
abstention.
Okay. All right, the next item I have is the homeowners report by Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm
Thank
going to
you.
oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Kayla's gonna present, and I think she's
Oh, okay.
added some additional information.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Thanks,
Kayla.
Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. Don, you can go ahead and skip ahead to the next slide, just so we can kind of go through. Thanks. So this time period covers January and February of this year, because we're always 1 month behind because we don't have full data for March, until the end. So next month we'll have full data for the first quarter of the year. But so far doing well, 92% of our portfolio is current, which is really in line with what we've seen historically. Next slide. As far as our first mortgage programs go, our activity has actually tripled in purchase dollar volume when compared to the same time frame last year. So we're seeing a lot of activity, and we've done just under 700 loans so far this year. As for our lender activity, very consistent in terms of who our top lenders are: First World Mortgage, Total Mortgage Services. And as you can see, production has really been on the rise. That green bar is 2022 and the blue bar is 2023. So across the board, our top lenders are producing more this year than they did last year in the same time period. Next slide.
Do we expect, can I ask a question? Do we expect to
Yes.
see much of a slowdown because of the raise in interest rates?
We haven't seen that so far this year. In fact, at this time last year, the interest rates were actually lower.
Yeah.
And so even though interest rates are higher this year, we're still seeing higher
higher.
production. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As far as our down payment assistance, we've seen surges compared to this time last year as well. We've tripled our purchase volume as well for DAP. And we've done 466 DAP loans for a total of over $6.8 million so far this year. As far as the race and ethnicity breakdown, about a little over half of our borrowers this year so far were minority borrowers. So that's any borrower who identified as not white or Hispanic. And if we go to the next slide, this gets into the time to own program, which I know we had lots of questions on last time. So for this time period so far, we've had just over 1,300 reservations with the average DAP reservation amount of just over $30,000. The median income for a time to own borrower is $64,000 compared to all of CHFA's portfolio, which is just under $80,000. So the program is definitely targeting that lower income borrower. We don't have something formal to present right now, but Andrew Bolger on the research, marketing, and outreach team is currently working on an analysis to sort of figure out how many of our time to own borrowers would not have been able to purchase a home if not for time to own. So stay tuned for that in the next few months. Preliminary results seem really good. And then on the next slide, so this addresses some questions that Cindy and Lisa had brought up at our last mortgage committee meeting, asking for a little bit of a deeper dive into time to own demographics specifically. So not shown on this slide is the overall racial demographic profile of the time to own program, but I can share some stats. So about 50% of our time to own reservations have gone to white non-Hispanic borrowers. And then what this slide is looking at is the demographics broken down by the opportunity areas that the reservations for those loans are located in. And so what we're seeing here is that as opportunity level rises from very low to very high, white non-Hispanic borrowers make up more of those reservations. So about 90% of all of the reservations in the very high and high category, of the reservations that have gone to white and non-Hispanic borrowers, about 90% of those were located in very high and high opportunity areas. And then we see sort of the reverse going on when we look at particularly our Black borrowers. Black applicants for the time to own program are much more likely to be purchasing a home in a low or very low opportunity area. But something that I wanted to point out is that this pattern is not unique to the time to own program. Rather, it mimics the CHFA portfolio at large and really reflects many forces that are outside of CHFA's control, such as historic segregation in the state, where lower income buyers can afford even with the time to own program. So I think that brings us to the end. So if anyone has any questions, happy to elaborate more.
This is excellent, though. As we look at these charts, I mean, this is exactly what they were talking about. And Lisa really focuses on this. But yeah, the more that we drill down in these areas, it's interesting. But some of the overall perspective that you're pointing out is that it looks like it could be consistent with the overall CHFA demographics, as well as when we break it down even more into the specific areas. Yeah, I mean, and it looks like the targeting from that the first chart that you put up looks like it is meeting those target needs that we're after.
I think it's important to remember that, the program was to help people or to allow them to hopefully purchase where they want to live. So, there are some people that don't want to move out of their neighborhood. Their grandparents watch their their kids and things like that. So, I think it's also indicative of where people want to live. And if you wanted to move to a higher opportunity area with a higher cost, then there would be additional funding to assist you with that.
Great point, though. Yes.
Yeah, really interesting chart. Thank you. All right, anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Kayla and Lisa. Next up is the multifamily activities to be presented by Seema.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'll go over
Hello.
multifamily report. So the development spotlight for this month is Woodland Hills in Torrington. And it's a minor moderate rehab for a family housing, 176 units, and all of them have project-based subsidies. It's almost 95% complete. PIS is pending, and we are projecting an final closing by March of next year.
What's PIS stand for?
Placed in service.
Placed in service.
Ah, okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, and here is everything that we have on our plate. And this data is of beginning of March, and it excludes the 9% round applications that have come in. So in all the three buckets on top, you'll see most of the units are affordable. There are very few market rate units, and our TDCs, projected TDCs, are pretty much what we've been seeing in past several months. And again, like we've seen in all the previous months, the non-competitive LIHTC 4%, that's the primary one in all the three buckets, whether it's the TDC or the total number of developments or the total number of units. So that's the big piece there. We are soon going to be coming up with the HTCC round. Applications are due June 1st, and we have an overview session April 17th. 9% round is currently under review. There are 74 open HTCC applications and about 19 SSHP critical needs applications. Next one. News and insights. So staff from multifamily attended a relocation plans training presented by TOBA. Then there was an HTCC session for the 2022 awardees, and we've uploaded new forms to help improve communications with the nonprofits. About 35% people attended it. Staff from CHFA Multifamily visited the Westchester Modular Home Factory in Wingsdale, New York. It was a tour organized by SELA, by DOH. We, walked the factory floor. We explored use of modular construction for affordable housing properties. These modules, because they're built in the factory, they do offer improved, quality, energy efficiency, speedy setup. And it has a big role to play. Construction costs are about 10% less than the conventional methods. But we can potentially increase that by, standardizing layouts, keeping modules simple. But I think the big benefit is the speed to market. That's what allows you to deliver the product sooner and shortens the financing period. And so there's less interest carry, and that's another benefit to it. For the LIHTC round, we received 18 applications, and staff is reviewing them and almost finalizing, points. Award recommendations would be presented to board next month in April. There were no initial closings in February, and there were two final closings, St. Mary Place in New London and Maple View Towers in Stamford. And here is a chart of projects that will come to board in the coming months. Next one. So here we are highlighting a transaction that you'll be, soon seeing. It's the West Hartford Fellowship Housing Redevelopment. It was one of the 2022 awardees, and it's in West Hartford, new construction of elderly housing type, 65 units. All 65 are affordable. So it's going to be in phases. This is the first phase where they're demolishing 3 units, outlined in red, and replacing them with 65 units. Here are a couple pictures of the existing complex. Any questions?
Well, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
any questions? Okay, everybody's busy. All right, I don't have anything else on the agenda. Anyone else have anything to add?
No, I would like to thank you, Heidi and Greg and Cindy. I enjoy these conversations. I'm glad that I have participative board members that are willing to talk things out, because your insights are definitely useful.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Yes, I just wanted to add too that this last report was very helpful. I was busy writing things down. That's why I had my head down. But yeah, this is the great stuff too, because it helps us as we discuss this and see where it's what things are going on and where we're headed. It's just it's interesting that the housing issues that face our state right now and how we are attacking them in the future, we happen to be the tip of the spear in so many ways, because there's so much deep thinking that goes with creativity that these meetings are so great. I agree with you.
Well, I think what I like is that, the change in thought process, what, that you guys are doing to, what works, right? How do we get more? It seems like we have more sponsors, more participants involved, and more moving parts because we have gaps and we have increased costs and interest rates are up, but you guys are finding a way to fill it. So, good for you. Thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Just to that point too, when you look at the numbers, year over year is not really being affected in these, historically increased interest rates right now. I mean, it's, there's a lot of good things happening. We could pick up our toys and balls and bats and go home, or we can play this thing out and try to create more housing. And it really is nice to see that that's what we're doing.
Agreed. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for your time. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Right.
Second.
If I don't
Thanks,
second it, are we all
everybody.
staying here?
We're all adjourned. Say aye. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. See you all
Bye, thank
Thursday.
you.
Bye.
See everybody Thursday.
Yeah.